Coming up on today's podcast, we got a lot to cover. We're going to talk a little bit about the scare that Rashawn Slater gave us this past week. We're going to talk a little bit about the left guard competition because I still don't think that situation is completely settled. We got to discuss Tuli Tuipulotu's contract because, in my opinion, that's still the biggest story coming out of training camp. Also, the receivers, the cornerbacks, the pass rushers, and why first-round pick Akeem Mesidor got everybody thinking he's about to have a special season. And oh, by the way, the Chargers' first preseason game is coming up this Thursday against the Houston Texans. The road to the Super Bowl is about to begin. But for now, let's talk about what we've learned from week 2 of training camp. I'm Stacy, and this is Chargers Talk 4630. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chargers Talk 4630. And as always, I appreciate every single one of you for taking a few minutes out of your day to hang out with me and talk some Chargers football. Now, before we get started, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who might not be aware of our podcast yet. It really helps the channel to grow, and I appreciate all you guys for the support you've been giving me. Also, don't forget to check out SLM Expressions for even more football content. We've got Chargers coverage and updates from all 32 football teams, and if you haven't checked it out yet, I think you'll really enjoy it. Now look, as of right now, it seems as if Rashawn Slater survived a scare that had everybody talking. When he left practice and went into that medical blue tent, he later came back holding his helmet, but it appears so far all is well, and he dodged a bullet. Now, hopefully, this was nothing more than the Chargers just saying, you know what, we're not taking no chances. And if that's the case, then I applaud them because after what Rashawn went through last season with that patella tendon injury, you have to be smart, right? You have to protect one of the most important players on your football team. But I'll be honest with you. When I first heard he went into that blue medical tent, my heart skipped a beat. And I'm sure that every Charger fan probably had that same feeling, right? Because anytime you see a player coming off a major injury heading to that tent, your mind immediately starts thinking the worst. And that's just human nature. Now, hopefully in a couple of days, we all are laughing about how worried we were over something that ended up no more than just a precautionary. When healthy, he's one of the best left tackles in football. He protects Justin Herbert's blind side. He's one of the leaders of that offensive line, and he's a cornerstone player. So when you start talking about players this team absolutely cannot afford to lose, Justin Herbert is on that list, Derwin James on that list, Khalil Mack, right? Rashawn Slater's on that list too, along with a whole lot of other people. That's how valuable he is. Now, having said all that, if I'm Joe Ortiz, I'm picking up the phone, right? I'm calling Cam Robinson. If your expectations this season are truly Super Bowl aspirations, then I don't think you wait until disaster happens before you do something or at least prepare for it, right? The Chargers have a lot of depth across that offensive line. But let's be honest, there's not another Rashawn Slater or Joe Alt on this line. So championship teams, they think ahead, and championship teams build depth before they need it, right? That's why I think bringing in someone like Cam Robinson makes a lot of sense. He's been around. He's played a lot of football. He's seen different fronts. He's seen elite pass rushers. And he understands what it takes to play left tackle in this league. Would he be Rashawn Slater? No. Nobody is saying that. But could he come in and give you confidence if something happened or somebody got injured? Absolutely. And sometimes that's exactly what championship teams do. They prepare themselves against the unexpected. And I'm tired of watching all these other teams that move like that. Justin Herbert's blind side is too important to gamble with. If at any time Slater missed some games, you got an experienced veteran ready to step in. You solve the problem before it becomes one, right? I know some people said in the chat, don't worry about it. Just move Joe Alt over the left tackle. He's got it. Okay. You can do that. We know Joe Alt is talented enough to play left tackle. Nobody's questioning that. But here's the problem. Now you weaken the other side of the line. So yes, you solved one problem, but you created another one. The Chargers are at their best when Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt is playing at those tackle positions. That's how this offensive line was designed to work. That's where both players are most comfortable, and that's where Justin Herbert gets the best protection, right? And there's another position that I still think that have a lot of unanswered questions, and that's left guard. In my opinion, the left guard position still has not been completely figured out. Now, according to Jim Harbaugh, Coyote Awosika right now appears to have the inside track on becoming the Chargers starting left guard. Now, we know he's getting a lot of first-team reps, and from everything that's been reported coming out of camp, he seems to be the guy that they're looking at first. And look, if he wins the job outright because he's simply the best player, I have absolutely no problem with that. Competition is supposed to bring out the best in everybody, right? We've been talking about Jake Slaughter and Coyote Awosika as the two guys fighting for that left guard spot. And from the beginning, I kept saying the same thing. Let's see what happens when the pads come on, right? Well, the pads are on now, and somebody else appears to have creeped up and have a lot to say about this competition. And I'm talking about second-year player Branson Taylor. And from everything coming out of camp, since they started practicing in pads, Branson Taylor has been turning a lot of heads. And I'm not talking about somebody just having one good rep and then afterwards we trying to create another training camp storyline. No, this dude is blocking, right? He's playing good enough that he made the coaching staff put things on pause and take a longer look at what he's doing. So what we thought was a two-man battle between Slaughter and Awosika might not be a two-man battle anymore. Branson Taylor has injected himself right into this competition at left guard. And listen, that's what training camp is supposed to be about. Once those pads come on, now we start finding out who can really move people, who can hold up physically, and who deserves those reps. And right now, Branson Taylor is making sure his name is a part of that conversation. Jim Harbaugh says it all the time, competition is welcome. I love that mentality, and as they say, iron sharpens iron, and the best player should play, right? The left guard position still feels like one of the biggest mysteries on this football team. Everywhere else you look, you could pretty much identify who's going to be on the field. Quarterback, we know. Running back, we know. We pretty much know who the wide receivers are. The tight ends is pretty much settled. The defensive line, the secondary, we all have an idea. But left guard, that still feels like the one position where everybody is still trying to figure things out, right? But we get to see who looks like what in their first preseason game because they all will get their share of reps, right? But the preseason is here this Thursday, and that's when these competitions are going to really start separating themselves. Practice is one thing. Game speed is something completely different. The lights come on. The crowd is there. The adrenaline kicks in. And now we start finding out who can really handle the moment. Now, personally, I'm rooting for every single one of these guys. I don't care whether it's Coyote Awosika, Jake Slaughter, Trey Pipkins, or somebody else that surprises us. I don't care who wins the job. I just want the best 5 offensive linemen protecting Justin Herbert. Because if this offensive line reaches its potential, this offense has a chance to be special. These are not lies. These are whatever. Let's move over to what I believe is still becoming the biggest story coming out of Chargers training camp, and that's Tuli Tuipulotu and his contract, right? Tuli is not holding out. He's holding in. There's a difference. He's with the football team. He's in meetings. He's around his teammates. He's shockingly participating in all the drills. The business side of football as fans drives us nuts. But Tuli is going in year 4, and he's only 23 years old. He's already proven he belongs in the league, and now he's trying to secure the first life-changing contract of his career. Now, usually agents advise you to work off to the side with one of the staffers because your job is to protect your client. You don't want him going out there and risk tens of millions of dollars before a contract is finalized if you can avoid it. I get that. But on the other hand, I understand the Chargers too. The edge rusher market, it really exploded. Every year, it seems like somebody else is resetting the market, right? One contract comes in, then another one tops it. Then another one tops that. The numbers has gotten crazy, but it's the nature of the NFL. Will Anderson Jr. is making $50 million. Micah Parsons and Aiden Hutchinson is making around $40 to $45 million. TJ Watt is right there below that. These contracts change the entire conversations for premier edge rushers. So now Joe Ortiz have to answer one very important question. How do the organization value Tuli Tuipulotu? Not how I value him, not how you value him. How do they value him? How do the organization and Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh value Tuli Tuipulotu? Do they see him as one of the foundation pieces of this defense? Do they believe he's somebody that they want to build around for the next 5 or 6 years or so? Or do they see him differently? Because that's what this negotiation really is all about to me. I think Tuli is a pretty awesome dude, man. Like, he's a guy that I can see that loves football. And you can tell, right? I mean, he out there running around, participating in every drill when he shouldn't or don't have to. He could easily get hurt, and I'm not sure that his agent would be cool with what he's doing. But it's clear to see he's a football player and a player that loves football. He could easily say, I'm not doing anything or taking any risks until I get my bag, but he wants to play football. You could see it. How good is that? I mean, seriously, we know the deal is going to get done. I'm sure of it. When you're an edge rusher, every single rep matters. Like, you're working on your burst, your first step, your bend around the corner, right? You're using your hands, putting your paws on the offensive tackle. You're working on your counter moves, setting the edge, converting speed to power, reading the run versus the pass. All of those little things get sharpened through repetition, right? And you can't simulate that in the meeting room or standing on the sideline until you get that. Those football reps matter. So my concern is not about Tuli's contract. My concern is I don't want this negotiation dragging into the preseason, because eventually, whenever the deal gets done, he's going to have to go from practicing slow to full speed. And that's when soft tissue injuries can happen. That's when hamstrings tighten up, and that's when groins get pulled, and that's when calves get strained. And that's why I like to see both sides getting something worked out sooner than later, right? Now, someone put in the comment section on the last podcast that he's not going to get what the top 5 edge rushers get because he only got 13 sacks last year. Now, we all understand that. But football is so much bigger than one stat. If sacks was the only thing that mattered, then they would evaluate every defensive player exactly the same way. But we know they don't, and they won't, because that's not how football works. They look at the entire body of work. For me, Tuli checks all the boxes you look for in the edge rusher. Can he stop the run? Yes. Can he set the edge? Absolutely. Can he pressure quarterbacks even when he don't get the sack? Yes. Can he line up in different spots? Yes. Does he play physical football and play with a high motor? Without question. And that's why I believe Tuli is a much better football player than his sack numbers alone would say. Now, let me give you an example. Look at Khalil Mack. Last season, Khalil finished with only 5.5 sacks because injuries caused him to miss games, right? Now, let me ask you something. Did Khalil Mack suddenly become less valuable because his sack total went down? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, when Khalil wasn't on the field, teams attacked that edge. We saw it, especially in that Miami Dolphin game. They ran right at it. Why? Because one of the best edge setters in football wasn't there anymore. That's the kind of impact that never shows up on a stat sheet. And when Khalil came back after missing 4 or 5 games, notice what happened? That outside running game started disappearing again. Sometimes the biggest impact a player makes never shows up in the box score. And if I was the GM, that's how I would evaluate Tuli. He's one of those players that affects the game in ways people don't always notice unless they're watching the film, right? So I definitely think he should be in there with the top 5 edge rushers, because he don't just do one thing well, he do everything well. Every season, he's looked a little bit better than the year before, and that's why I honestly believe he's only scratching the surface of how good he can become. Now, before I move on, I do want to mention Akeem Mesidor. I like this dude. I like everything I'm hearing coming out of camp about this guy. He's positive. He's explosive. He got a quick first step. His motor never stops. The coaching staff love his work ethic. And I think he got a chance to become a disruptive edge rusher for the Chargers this year. But here's the difference. We already seen Tuli produce in NFL games. Mesidor still got to prove he can do it when the lights come on. Training camp is encouraging. Preseason is going to tell us a lot more. And the regular season is going to tell us the truth. If this Chargers team is truly serious about making a deep playoff run and reach the Super Bowl, then they need everybody. They need everybody healthy, they need everybody focused, and they need everybody on the same page. So Chargers, you got to get this deal done with Tuli so it don't become a distraction down the line, right? So let's get ready for week 1. I got to give this guy a mention because since the pass came on, he looks like he's not only about to take another leap, but he might be on the verge of reintroducing himself as the next playmaker on this Chargers defense. And that's defensive lineman Justin Eboigbe. I watched every interview, and I listened to whatever the reports are saying coming out of camp, and there's one word that they keep describing him as, and that's dominant. I think it was, what's the guy name? Brian Balding, I believe it was. He posted a lot of video clips of Justin Eboigbe. He was killing it on the one-on-one drills. He was getting pressure. He was getting his hands up and knocking passes down at the line of scrimmage. Then you see him in the 11-on-11 drills, and it's the same thing. He's making plays. He's being disruptive. And now he's even opening up some eyes on special teams. Listen, Justin Eboigbe is going into year 3, and this dude looks like a man on a mission. His rookie year was quiet. He didn't play much. He dealt with some injuries, and like a lot of young players, he was just trying to figure things out at that level. But then he came back last season, took that next step, and finished with 6 sacks. Now it looks like another jump could be coming, right? And I've been saying it. I believe this Chargers defense have a chance to be every bit as good as it was last year. I really believe that. And if Justin Eboigbe continues playing the way he's been playing right now, his surge is going to make it difficult for this coaching staff not to give him a significant role on his defense. And I'm going to tell you something right now. It's going to be hard for some of these guys to make this roster. I think the Chargers are going to lose some really good football players. That's just the reality of it. You can only keep 53. And when you start looking at the depth and some of these young guys that's stepping up, it just ain't going to be enough spots for everybody. But you know what? That's a great problem for the Chargers to have, because when cutting the roster down becomes this difficult, it tells me that Joe Ortiz in this front office is doing one hell of a job finding and drafting football players. And Justin Eboigbe is starting to look like another one. Now, before we wrap this thing up, I want to touch on one more thing that caught my attention in training camp. I talked a lot about the receivers in my last podcast. I talked about Brennan Thompson, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston, and those guys have been doing great throughout camp, right? Ladd looks like the guy we saw as a rookie, which is nice to see. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time going back over that, because if you missed it, you can go back and check out last Monday's episode. Instead, I want to talk about something else that I think was very interesting: the pass rush drills. I was watching 7-on-7s and 1-on-1s and all the highlight catches, and sometimes the little things tell you just as much as the big plays, right? Watching those pass drills, one thing stood out to me. Khalil Mack, man. He looked like he turned the clock back. He's smooth with it, too. He still shows he got a burst, the balance, the bend, and the way he attacked those drills. You would have thought he was 5 or 6 years younger. That's what stood out to me. It wasn't just completing the drill. It was how easy he made it look. That's why experience matters in this league. Khalil Mack understands technique. Khalil Mack understands leverage. He knows how to use his hands. He knows how to win before the ball is even snapped. That's what separates great veterans from everybody else. I also thought Tuli Tuipulotu looked really good. He looked smooth as well. He looked explosive. He looked comfortable moving around the edge. Even Akeem Mesidor looked like a seasoned veteran. The more I see and hear about him, the more I like this guy. And I think we got a really good edge rusher, but also a complete player too. This is a really good look for Mesidor, because we all know this isn't college anymore. Every single drill is faster, every movement is sharper, and every mistake get exposed, right? That's why training camp is so important. It shows you who's ready for this level and who still has some work to do. I listened to players from the Chargers and some of the coaching staff talk about Akeem Mesidor. If you watch enough football, you know coaches do not hand out the kind of compliments I'm hearing about Mesidor by accident. When you hear multiple people keep saying the same things about one player, you start paying attention, because usually that means something is there. And one thing I really like hearing was that he held his own going up against Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. Think about that for a second. If you're a young edge rusher trying to learn how to play at the next level, who's better to practice against every day than two of the best tackles in the game? It's probably not a better duo in the league than those two guys. So every practice he's learning something. Every practice he's getting better. And with every mistake becomes a lesson. I'm not expecting Mesidor to walk in and immediately become an all-pro. Would be nice, right? You never know. In fact, I got a little history for you. There's only one player, one, in Chargers history to ever come into the league as a rookie and make all-pro his first season. And that was safety Derwin James. Now, I do believe Mesidor is in a good situation. I mean, like, he's learning from Khalil Mack, Tuli Tuipulotu. He's got veteran coaches. He's competing against great offensive linemen every single day, right? If you were designing the perfect environment for a rookie edge rusher to develop, this would be pretty close. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about this football team this year. Not just because of the stars. We already know what Justin Herbert could do. We already know what Derwin James could do. We all know what Khalil Mack could do. I'm excited because of these young players, the future, the depth, the competition. You could tell this organization is building something different. Now, how will things work out? Time will tell. But for the first time in a long time, it feels like this organization got a clear vision. And that's exciting to me. So as I close, we will keep our eyes on Tuli's contract situation and hope a deal is done soon. We'll continue watching this left guard competition because that's another position that's going to have a huge impact on this football team. And before you know it, week 1 will be here. Man, I can't wait. I really believe this team has a chance to do something special. But like I've been saying throughout this podcast, the biggest key is keeping your most important players healthy. I believe they can compete with any team in football. And I can't wait to watch. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out SLM Expressions for more Chargers coverage, football news, updates from all 32 teams, football history, community discussions, and so much more. I appreciate each and every one of you for your continued support, the comments, the discussions, even when we don't always agree. That's what makes this community special. Until next time, I'm Stacy. This is Chargers Talk 4630. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, boat up.